What's up, everyone? It's Blue Bear here, and this week I will be doing a 60-card Blues Budget Battle Brew video for you. That is my 60-card kitchen table style fun decks for you to play with your friends. These are not tournament legal in any way, shape, or form. They probably could fit into a format, but they probably wouldn't do well enough to win you in a tournament. But these are more for fun, also for learning how to play the game for beginners. This will be the first of a couple. I'm probably going to be doing 3, maybe 4 of these videos over the next couple weeks, as I said in the last Commander unboxing and upgrade guide. So I'm actually pretty excited for this one. This one is actually a remake of the very first deck build video I did on the channel, Death by Thopter. Okay, the theme here is pretty obvious. It's get a bunch of Thopters on the field and then swarm the board and overwhelm your opponent and attack and attack and attack. There are a couple of fun little other things that this deck is able to do. It's able to recur all the stuff back into your library while also gaining resources like putting lands out. So rather than explain it all without showing you the deck, I'll just show you the deck. If you watched the first video 3 or 4 years ago, however long ago it was, I said that I loved the deck, and that didn't change. It's actually my favorite deck that I make when it comes to the Blues Budget Battle Brews. So let's go ahead and show you what the deck is, and then what I'm going to do is, at the end of the video, something new for the channel that I started doing recently is I'm going to give you a very small set of information that you could upgrade the deck with. So let's start. Obviously, we go with Ornithopter because this is Death by Thopter. Now, the artifact creature type here is actually now creature Thopter. Or I think it's Thopter or Ornithopter, I can't remember. But I got 4 of them in there for you. They're 0 to cast, 0 2 flyers, so they're fun. One of the new additions from the previous version is I've included Patchwork Automaton. It's a 2 to cast 1/1. It has Ward 2, which gives it some protection. And then whenever you cast an artifact spell, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. This is to replace a card that I had in here that I don't have any more of. I wish I did, or else I would have put it in here. That does almost the same exact thing, but it doesn't have the protection. But it has modular, so when it dies, it can put its counters on something. I wish I had more of them, but I didn't. Aviation Pioneer is a 3 to cast 1/2 that when it enters the battlefield, you create a 1/1 Thopter token. I got a play set of those in there. Esperzoa is actually the heart and soul of this deck. It's a 3 to cast 4/3 flyer, so it's a big beater. It has this little, at the beginning of your upkeep, return an artifact you control to its owner's hand caveat. However, I've found a way to make that a benefit rather than a minus or a problem or an issue or, you know, whatever. 2 Sky Scanners. They're 3 to cast 1/1 Thopters that fly, and when they enter the battlefield, you draw a card, because card draw is kind of key in all games of Magic. Pilgrim's Eye, another 3 to cast 1/1 Thopter with flying, that when it enters the battlefield, you can search your library for a basic land card and put it into your hand. Basic land, not something with a basic land type. It has to be an actual island for this deck. Chief of the Foundry, because we need Lords. You have to have something to buff up those, you know, the 0/2 or the 1/1 flying Thopters. Got 2 of them in there. And I got another Lord here, Master of Ethereum. It's a 3 to cast Star creature that its stars or power and toughness are equal to the number of artifacts you control. It includes itself because it is an artifact. And it also is a Lord that gives other artifacts, creatures you control, +1/+1. A new addition here is another new addition, because that was a new addition. Sai, Master Thopter, is a 3 to cast 1/4 that has whenever you cast an artifact spell, so most of the stuff in here is an artifact spell, you create a 1/1 Thopter artifact creature token with flying. Then you can pay 1 blue and 1 of any to sacrifice 2 artifacts in general, doesn't have to be the Thopters, to draw a card. There are going to be a couple things in here that's actually pretty good for. Returning is Sharding Sphinx. It's a 6 to cast 4/4 flyer that whenever an artifact creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may create a 1/1 blue Thopter creature token with flying. So everything that you have in play that deals damage will, if it deals combat damage to the player, will create another version of itself for the most part. I say version of itself because most of the things you're attacking with in here will be 1/1 Thopter creature tokens. Another thing returning is the Elixir of Immortality. So one of the things I liked about doing this deck was I was able to loop the deck. Looping means be able to get stuff back from your grave somehow, some way. This one puts them back in your library, and it gives you some life. So you're able to cast stuff, sacrifice stuff, and then return them back. And here's the cool thing about Elixir of Immortality. I got 2 in here because they can put each other back into your library, so you can keep doing it over and over again. That was one of the cool things about the original deck. That one had 4. You don't need 4. You only needed to be able to loop it with 1 of each. So that's down to 2. Mike, here's where the cool thing of being able to sacrifice things and getting them back, and the Esperzoa. Things like, there are 3 kinds of cards that do exactly what this does, but with different effects. So, Mycosynth Wellspring is a 2 to cast artifact that when it enters the battlefield or is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, this one says you may search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, and put it into your hand. So I've got that one. I've got Ichor Wellspring, which is the same thing, but lets you draw a card instead of search for a land. And then I've got Servo Schematic, which gives you a 1/1 Servo artifact creature token. It doesn't have flying, but at least it's a creature. So all 3 of these are in here because Espresso returns them to your hand, so at least you have something that doesn't hurt you to return to your hand. And then you have Sai, who sacrifices them, so you can sacrifice them if you need to draw a card. And the benefit is Sai. I keep wanting to say Sal, but it's Sai. Sai lets you sacrifice them to draw cards, so you get benefit no matter what you do with them. So that was the cool thing I found with that. Efficient Construction, I got 2 of these in here, so whenever you cast an artifact spell, you create a Thopter, 1/1 flying Thopter token. And then Thopter Spy Network. So this one's a little cool. So it's a 4-cast enchantment that at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control any artifact at all, you put a 1/1 Thopter token into play. And then whenever one or more artifact creatures you control deal damage to a player, you draw a card. So you can see where this is going. You're going to draw a lot of cards. You're probably going to have a lot of things die on you. You're probably going to be able to block with things. You're attacking with things. It's all to get damage through, but you're able to get them back because Elixir of Immortality will let you bring them back into your library. And then you have a lot of draw cards. This one lets you draw cards. Sai lets you draw cards. Acre Wellspring lets you draw cards. So you're able to loop things back in. On top of that, I have things like Artificer's Epiphany. It's a 3-cast instant that lets you draw 2 cards. And if you control no artifacts, you have to discard a card. In this deck, you should control an artifact when you cast it. So you just draw 2 cards. Got a playset of those in there. And then Thoughtcast. So this is a 5-cast sorcery that draws you 2 cards, but has affinity for artifacts that says this spell costs 1 less to cast for each artifact you control, and you should have at least 4 out when you go to cast it, making this a 1-cast draw 2 card spell. And that's the deck. The rest of it's just going to be, I think it's 20 islands. I'll have the deck list in the description of the video. You can take a look at it, but that's a deck in a nutshell. This is my favorite deck that I make when it comes to the budget battle brew, the 60-card decks. I made it a while ago. Again, it was the first video I did for the channel that wasn't a pack opening video. It was the first deck build video I did. And I haven't really made it since then because I didn't have enough of the other support cards in that were needed to build a deck. I actually have acquired enough to do so. This is the second version of this deck, and it's still just as nasty. The person who bought it the first time actually said that they still play it, and they actually love the deck. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go over a couple of things you can do to change this deck. Maybe call it upgrading it to make it a little bit better. It costs a little bit more. I only do these for $20 decks. But these cards will make it cost a little bit more, and you can do that on your own, or if I have them while you're at the convention, you can buy them from me there. So let's get into that real quick. I will begin the guide by looking at a couple of the creatures. I'll start by suggesting that you replace the 4 Aviation Pioneers and swap in 3 Master of Ethereum and 1 Side Master Thought Theorist. This should help beef up your Thopters and give you a more repeatable way of creating Thopter tokens. Then I would take out the 2 Pilgrim's Eyes and 2 Sky Scanners and replace them with 4 Arcbound Ravagers. The Ravagers are cheaper to cast, provide a sack outlet for things that provide you with a benefit when they go to the grave, and can distribute its +1/+1 counters when they die. Another thing that I would suggest you do is take out the 2 Patchwork Automatons and replace them with 1 Sharding Sphinx and 1 Thoughtcast. While the Sphinx is a little more mana to cast, its static ability of creating Thopter tokens is quite unmatched. The Thoughtcast should help you get more cards in your hand for less mana, since your affinity for artifacts should cover all but the blue mana that you need to cast the spell. Now let's look at some of the non-creatures. While beneficial, I would take out the 2 Mycosynth Wellsprings and replace them with 2 more efficient constructions. While being able to grab lands is great and can help your draws get better later, only being able to play 1 land per turn makes creating more Thopters a little more useful when combined with some of the other upgrades I've suggested so far. And finally, let's take a look at the lands. There are a few lands in the game that could help a deck with this unique strategy, but nothing was too groundbreaking. However, you could take out 2 islands to make room for 2 Academy Ruins. Being able to get artifacts back is essential to this deck strategy, and while the elixirs can do this, the ruins can do it on an individual basis and without having to wait for your graveyard to fill up. And the last thing I'll suggest isn't essential but could be helpful. You could take out 2 more islands to add 2 roadside reliquaries. What I like about this card is its extra card draw that requires you to sack it, and since part of this deck strategy is to get your graveyard back, it can be done repeatedly and without having to take up a spot for another spell. And there you have it, folks. One of my favorite decks that I make and sell, Death by Thopter. Not only is it one of my more unique decks, but it's also fun as hell to play. As I mentioned earlier, it is one of my many $20 budget decks that will be available for sale at the South Jersey Geek Fest. And if for some reason it doesn't sell there, then it will be made available on my Facebook page and on the Facebook Marketplace. Thanks for watching, and be sure to check back next week for another deck build video. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or concerns, or you just want to talk or chat about any of the videos I put out, you can do so using any of the methods I have displayed here. Additionally, if you would like to support the channel, you can do so in 3 ways. Donations are accepted and greatly appreciated. I have 3 methods with which you can do so displayed on the screen, and keep in mind that no amount is too small. If donations aren't your thing, and you would like to get something for your money, that's great too. I sell a lot of the decks I present on the channel, as well as mystery packs. So, if you're interested in any of these, you can contact me using the information I have up on your screen right now. Directly contacting me is usually the best and cheapest way to do so, but you can always look at what I currently have available on the Facebook Marketplace. And lastly, if you want to show your love and support for the channel, but like myself, are a little strapped for cash, it doesn't cost you anything to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet, watch some videos and give them a like, and possibly share them out on your social medias you use to help spread my content to more people. No matter what way you choose is greatly appreciated and will help support the channel, and I thank you for it. Sadly, that is all the time I have for this video. Thank you for watching, and please, stick around and watch some of the many great videos I've posted over the last few years, and remember to check back again for new content I'll be posting every week. Have a great day.